Doesn't seem that dark. Hello, welcome to Wiki Reviews. I'm Wiki and I review books. In honor of my last video, which was my favorite fantasy series, I thought I would do a quickie review on a book that was written by a fantasy author, one of the pioneers of the genre, but this is a science fiction novel that she wrote. And it is probably one of the most well-known science fiction books, not series. It's not a series, it's just one book, but a lot of science fiction authors really look to this book for not inspiration, but you know what I mean. Like it's one of those ones where it's always put on lists as one of the best sci-fi books of all times. And it is Ursula K. Le Guin's Left Hand of Darkness. If you are familiar with Ursula K. Le Guin, or if you watched my last video, you will also know that she is the author of the Earthsea fantasy series, which is about wizards and dragons and all magical things. But I really think it is important to acknowledge her Left Hand of Darkness because it is a very good science fiction book. It is about a man who is on a planet. He's kind of an emissary envoy from the Universe Council or whatever, the Ekumen of Known Worlds, as it were. He's an ethnologist, and he has been sent to this planet known as Winter to kind of, I guess, either welcome them into the Ekumen or see if they're worthy of going into the Ekumen, kind of just like an envoy emissary going down to say hello. And Winter, the planet, is obviously an ice planet. It's very cold. But the thing about it is that there is no gender on the planet. What does that mean? Well, it means that there's a mating cycle. I'm making the infinity sign for no reason, but here we are. There's a mating cycle where what do they call them? Gethenians? Gethenians? During their mating cycle, any of them can become male, any of them can become female, and then they mate, and there. They also do not have, like, they have, like, some of them have permanent mates, but most of the time they just do their mating cycle and then they move on. And it's interesting because since there is no gender, there's not this stigma of men being superior to women, women being inferior, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't exist on the planet. And for the ethnologist that is sent, who is a human, he's a person, a human being from Earth, this is an interesting perspective. Because, you know, almost all the other societies in the Ekumen have, like, male, female. But this is, like, the first planet that doesn't have that. But there is hierarchy. There is a hierarchy on the planet. There's still social systems, but it is not based on sex. And it's interesting because it's mostly told from perspectives of two characters. The ethnologist, who I don't believe is ever named, and a, like, royal vizier kind of regent, that was it, a regent of the royal family. And he's just kind of taking the ethnologist around so he can observe and determine whether or not they should be welcomed into the Ekumen. And it's so fascinating because it's a society without the hierarchy of sex. It's a society with still a hierarchy, but it is not sex. It's not based on that. And the idea that you can be a male one mating cycle, but then a female the next mating cycle kind of makes everyone still kind of equal in a way in that sense. But it's still unique to see such a strange perspective of not just being thrown into this society and just being like, oh, it's fine, but it's it's someone who's questioning it, who questions their lifestyle, who questions their society. And it's so fascinating, so well written that, like, I mean, Ursula K. Le Guin deserves every award that she has gotten for this book. If you have not read it, you should absolutely read it. It's really I want to say it's a good discussion piece, because it really puts into play, like, there's still, even though there is not bias on gender bias, there's still bias on other things. So it's not saying that the end-all solution to the problem is making everyone equal in sex terminology or gender terminology. It's that it's this thing where, without that, is there still a reason to be biased? Is there still a reason to have these hierarchies, and why do they work? Why do they not work? Like, what is so fascinating? It's a fascinating read. I loved it so much. And it even, like, as with anything, the protagonist, the ethnologist, has to keep explaining, like, no, I'm male all the time. Like, I'm not just male now, I am male all the time. And, like, seeing their reactions, like, but how are you male all the time? It's so, I love it. It's, if you are a fan of science fiction, or if you don't like science fiction and you just are curious, like, I would say read this. It's so good. I love it. And I think it really helped. I don't want to say it helped mold science fiction, but it definitely had a hand in helping all the science fiction genre become what it is today. It didn't single-handedly do it. Of course, there are other science fiction series and books that have 100% had more influence, but I think this one definitely got some say in the genre, and it is so good. It's the only book in this. She did not make this a series. I think she knew there was no need to make it a series. This is a one-off book, and it is all you need. I read it. Just read it. Even if you're just curious, take a peek. If you've read this book and have your own opinions about it, let me know down in the comments. I am very curious to see how many people have actually read this book. But yeah, it's well worth it. I love it. Ursula K. Le Guin is a powerhouse in fantasy and in science fiction. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will read you later. Bye!